And part of me is like, wow, be playing, see my friends, da 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 da. And this, I'm spending all this time thinking about that. Actually playing is kind of a pain in the butt a lot of ways. You got to get instruments and setting up, sound check, make sure everything's tuned. You're up there sweating. You hope you don't make any mistakes. You get down. And I mean, it's fun and everything, but so much of the fun is thinking about the things we're going to do. And it just goes to show where our heads are at, because we're always in this little imaginary world. We're never in the present. We're thinking about the future or the past, and they both things make us unobservant. They make us inattentive to detail, and this can be a problem. This can be a problem.
Yeah, I do admit you are correct on a lot of that. I've had to deal with a lot of that stuff just for the last 23 years. I actually had to count it up how many years it's been since I sobered up. I sobered up in 2003, and
Wow.
I'm like, I had to sit and do the math because I forgot how long, how many years it was. But
23, very good number.
23 years, man. And the thing that really stuck out to me, what you were saying there, was like the lying to yourself. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
I've done these shows with so many people, and there's so many of them that just flat out refuse to admit that you are capable of lying to yourself. You know what I mean? Like there's this.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's our default position. That's our default position most of the time. We're always lying to ourselves, man.
Yeah.
That's why when you were talking about being to thine own self be true, and talking about that important step, that is hard. That
Mhm.
is very difficult, because there's so much in ourselves that we're in complete denial about. There's so many things about ourselves that we feel we define ourselves. We define ourselves by these desires. We define ourselves uh, by things in us that are not very nice. Defilements, you would say in Buddhism. We define ourselves by our greed, by our anger. And look at the mainstream. I mean, most advertising is based on you identifying yourselves with with greed and gluttony and like all of the seven deadly sins. It's like, obey your thirst. Remember that one?
Yep.
Do what your these appetites tell you, and that'll make I'm the guy that obeys his thirst. You don't want that to be the basis of your self-worth. So when we're really trying to figure out what's going on, when we're looking inside, it's so difficult. The hardest journey, the hardest work I've ever done is internal, is looking inside, and I'm still working on it. There's a lot. There's a lot. It's a lifelong process, but yeah, just that being truthful with yourself, it's tough. The fortunate thing is that even though you try to deceive yourself, even though you obfuscate things, even though you can be very subtle about lying to yourself, about misleading yourself, it's not quite a lie, I'm just misleading them a little, right? No
Hmm.
matter how clever we are at fooling ourselves, we're not cleverer than ourselves.
That's right.
We can always outsmart ourselves. So, and these defilements and these negative aspects, they'll tell you, oh, you can't win. You can't win. Of course we can. Of course we can. And
Hey,
the God's willing, we will.
the thing that gets me about the principles over personality is like the personality. When you hear people say the word personality, what they're really saying is like when for everybody when it comes to their personality, that's really their ego and it's their
Right.
pride. And usually when you live off of your personality, which is your ego and your pride, you want to usually lie or lash out, you know. Um, and that's the first instinct that people usually do, and that's because they don't place their principles above their personalities. They do it vice versa. They live a life that is completely filled with just their ego and their temperament, and they're built up on
And
pridefulness.
they lash out in protection. They want to protect that because they know it's not real. They know it's very, very, very delicate. It's
Right.
very fragile. And And that's the personality built up, like I was saying before, about those defilements, those negative feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy that drinks a lot, you know. I'm the guy that does all these drugs. I'm the guy that gets into fights. Um, and I think, of course, part of them knows that this is just this little house of cards, and so yeah, they're going to lash out and defend their fragile little ego structure, because it's not built on anything but a set of this personality is just built up of all these tropes, all of these stereotypes, and all the things that they picked up from commercials and the people around them that were powerful. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, where did John Dillinger get his role models, right?
Right.
So yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, even not just commercials, but I mean, for me personally, when I started looking in on myself, I started realizing that, okay, and I'm not big on the whole nature versus nurture thing either, but
right,
like I actually did realize that when I was growing up, I was taught wrong. I had to learn, I had to relearn how to do the next right thing. You know what I mean? And that was the hardest part, but I had to live, like I said, with principles over personality. And even though personally I didn't feel that it was the thing that I wanted to do, I still did it because my principles override overrid they overridden my personality. You know what I mean? Even though
right,
it didn't match with who I was or what I did, then that I still did it. Like
yeah,
my sponsor told me every morning when I wake up, since I didn't have bad knees, I needed to try to the first thing I needed to do is come off the bed, hit the floor with my knees, and do prayers. And I was not a prayer guy
right.
at all. So, but even though he told me to, or even though I didn't want to do it because he told me to do it every morning, I made it a habit to try to pray before I got up out of bed. And eventually, it got to the point where the moment I woke up, my knees hit the floor
See, you
automatic.
could control that personality and mold it to something better principled
Hmm. And
through.
just that action, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's exactly what Aristotle said. He said all excellence is through training. You repeat an excellent action again and again, and then it becomes your nature.
Hmm.
So that's conquering your personality. And I guess part of that for you, I would imagine, was you had to step back and say, I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
Ignore what the personality was. So I'm not going to pray. It reminds me of something C.S. Lewis said. I don't know if you read much of C.S. Lewis. Great guy. He wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but he wrote a lot of great nonfiction. The Great Divorce is a great little booklet by him. I would suggest anyone reading. It's about hell. Very interesting. He also wrote the Screw Tape Letters. Roger, you might get a really good kick out of those. Those were a series of letters from one devil, to another devil about situations on Earth. So it's like things going on from a devil's point of view. It's very odd. But he was a an atheist and an irreligious kind of a person, and he eventually came to religion. He became very, very religious, very spiritual person, and he was very glad of it. But he was talking about, he'd been thinking about religion for a long time and this and that. And he said, finally, he decided to pray. And he hadn't prayed before. And he said, never was there a more reluctant worshiper who got down on his knees finally and prayed. And that was the beginning of a new life for him. One that was very positive for him and positive for all of his readers, too, I will say, because he produced some wonderful, beautiful work. Um, But yeah, that's what I thought, Roger. You and C.S. Lewis. So you're in good company. You're in good company, my friend.
I'll tell you one person that if anybody really wants to learn a lot about what I just said there, check out Burnt Brady. This guy, he's out of Kentucky. I believe he's from Owensburg. He's one of the few people I can honestly say that knows how to um, practice these things in real life on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? He'll just spell it right out to you. His name's Burns Brady, one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and he's just an old redneck from Alcoholics
Nice.
Anonymous, and he has no problem with people hearing his last name. Just to make that clear.
Okay.
He'll tell you.
Now, does he have a YouTube channel or something?
No, he does the circuit. He goes from place to place in treatment centers and everything, and he teaches
Nice.
people the 12 steps and stuff like
Oh.
that. He's a pretty cool guy. He's got his own books. Burns Brady. He goes by Burns B a lot too. So, but he talks about that stuff all the time, and he basically tells people to stop dwelling in what was or what might be. Be honest with yourself about who you are and what you value in life. And then he'll go on to say other stuff like, well, first of all, act on those values that you
Right.
that you know what I mean. And whenever you do that even if your ego or like other people's opinions get in the way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's
That you know what, that reminds me of something they say in Buddhism about how, and you were talking about principles over personality too, suggested it, but when you're here now and you're not worried about the past or the future, yeah, you're in this moment where everything is kind of suspended, but then that's where in Buddhism they call it mindfulness, which is keeping something in mind, keeping those principles in mind, so that you've got this present, you've got this power. What do you do with it? Well, you've got these principles. So you don't have to think about it. And in Buddhism, they have the further point about it is you apply these principles and you look at the results, and you're going to see, as people have been saying in Buddhism for 2,600 years, you will be happier when you do this. Your life will be better. Yep, there's a signal from Shambhala International Airport. They announced they're going to be opening the secret doors soon. So I think we're going to be wrapping up this episode here pretty shortly.
Let me grab my seatbelt.
Oh, you better. Yeah, I'm going to light the seatbelt light, and please return your seats to an upright position. The smoking lamp is now turned off. Stewards will be by to collect your rolling papers, hash pipes, or any other paraphernalia. Before we turn off the automatic pilot, Roger, would you like to share your socials with everyone so they can contact you if they feel they should?
Yeah, you can find me at Roger Hansen or Roger Hansen at ROGLOL1973 on X. You can also find me at Roger_Hansen on Minds.com. I also have a Discord channel called The Wonderful World of Weirdness where you can contact me. And you can also find me at Roger's Hangout on Teams, as well as Live with Roger Hansen or Roger's Hangout now on Elements Matrix. That's it.
Excellent. Well, I am to be found at Roger's Hangout, and actually, if you contact Roger, you can probably contact me. Otherwise, check out my website, navakavada.org. That's NAVAKAVADA. It's spelled just like it sounds. I'm also on Minds.com as Otto X, and it's Otto_X. And we've got a Navakavada YouTube channel and a BitChute channel. The BitChute channel are older videos, but I think there's some really good ones there, including some nice interviews. And that's about it for me. So I'm going to switch off the automatic pilot and begin our descent toward Shambhala International Airport. Those of you that are continuing on to Agartha, please remain in your seats. Everybody else can deboard then. So thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you especially, Roger, our co-pilot and electronics warfare officer. And hopefully we will see you all next week. Thank you for flying Clandestine International Airline.